friends. It's really great to be in Burlington. I recall coming here a number of times with Mike in the past, but having friends that live nearby. Mike is so proud of this community. We were doing an announcement earlier today, and on the way here this evening, we saw the Naval Memorial. He pointed out some of the other notable areas along the waterfront, and he is really such a proud representative of his community. He asked me some time ago about attending an event, and we were in the House one day, and we were discussing some parliamentary business, and he came and he sat down next to me and he said, "Peter, do you believe in free speech?" I said, "Well, yes. You know, Mike, I'm the Minister of Justice. Of course I believe in free speech." He said, "I'd like you to give one." It's wonderful to be here and pay my debt to society. All kidding aside, Mike is one of the hardest working members of our caucus, and I can say that with no hesitation. And it has a lot to do with the fact that he is the chair of the Justice Committee. And Caroline, I think you will attest to the fact that he spends a great deal of time preparing and studying for many of these complex issues. It's not because he's slow, it's because he takes his time to familiarize himself with some very complex issues that we are wrestling with at the Justice Committee. And many would know that the issues currently before us, whether they be decisions like the Bedford case that struck down all of the criminal code sections that pertain to prostitution, whether it's issues with respect to doctor-assisted suicide. We have issues before us now that deal with very troubling trends in cybercrime, child sex predators. It may surprise some of you to know that this is an area where we have seen prolific activity in recent years. It is, to our great shame, an area where there is increased assaults happening in society. And so we have enormously important and sobering issues before us on the justice agenda. That's not getting into the very real issue that has been dominating the news lately, and that is foreign fighters and radicalization that's happening online. And so these are complex matters. Mike is tasked as chair to really lead the government's efforts when it comes to legislation and how we are able to bring these bills before Parliament, have proper examination at committees, and he does a great job in that regard. But what it means, of course, is that it often takes him away or keeps him away from his constituency, which of course means that Carolyn has to do even more to clean up the basement,
That's right.
help move their daughter downtown, and all of those very important issues that parents share. I am very, very fortunate myself, blessed, in fact, to have found the right woman in my life, and we have a little boy now. And Mike's, honestly, as a friend, been very helpful to me in terms of trying to find that important balance in life, and he's been a great sounding board. He has, as you know, the most infectious laugh. And it actually careens through the entire house of Parliament. It causes dust to come down from the rafters. But I'm not at all surprised to see the turnout here tonight and to really sense the affection and the attachment that you feel to your member of Parliament. And Mike, as you know, put in his time previously in municipal politics, which is, in my view, one of the more challenging levels of politics, to be certain, because you're closest to the people. I noticed that there is a municipal election happening right now. This guy, Royal LePage, looks like he's doing really well. Mike will often come to me, you know, when we're in the midst of a very serious debate or when we're talking about a number of these very somber subjects, and he has a way of lightening the atmosphere while at the same time keeping you on track. Mike, in addition to his duties with justice and as a very active member of Parliament for your community, has highlighted some of the important projects that matter here in Burlington. And it's a continuation, because I know he was very passionate about the arts and was very instrumental in bringing support here for your Performing Arts Center, as well as the Appleby Ice Center. Have I got that?
That's right, yeah.
And the Lakefront Park, which I saw today, which is a beautiful, beautiful part of your city. I would be remiss if I didn't at least briefly touch on something I know that Mike and I, and many here in this room, feel very passionately about, and that was our support for Canadian Armed Forces and our veterans. I was extremely blessed to have spent some time with our soldiers as Minister of National Defense. I saw firsthand the incredible contribution that they make on behalf of our country in places like Afghanistan, throughout the Middle East, on peacekeeping missions, their work in Africa and Haiti in response to the crisis that they experienced. They are truly our greatest citizens, past and present. And Mike and I have discussed on a number of occasions, along with our colleagues, how we can continue to provide not only the support for the tools and the equipment that they need today, but ensuring that we are meeting the obligations, really the moral obligation that we have as a country and as a government, to ensure that we're supporting our returning soldiers and supporting their families and giving them the very best of medical care when and if they are injured in service of our country. So I'm very grateful to Mike for the work that he has done in that regard as well. I spent a number of memorable occasions with some of the great leadership that we have in the Canadian Forces, and I believe we have a few folks here from Newfoundland and Labrador, the great province of Newfoundland and Labrador. One of our tremendous Chiefs of Defense staff was General Rick Hilliard, and on one particular occasion we were in Afghanistan for Christmas, and General Hilliard is a remarkable leader and has tremendous military acumen, understanding of strategy, but he is an absolutely terribly taste in ice hockey, and he's a huge Maple Leafs fan. I know that may not be good in this crowd. I'm from the East Coast. Rick Hilliard brought the Stanley Cup to Afghanistan on a few occasions. On this one Christmas, we had the Stanley Cup with us, and we had some retired players like Tiger Williams, and we had Chris Nyland, and who else was there? The late Bob Probert. So these were not what you'd call goal scorers, but they were very popular with the soldiers. And they were bringing these players along with the Stanley Cup as a bit of a taste of home, a reminder. We had Tim Hortons on the base, in fact, in Kandahar at the airfield. It was the only place in the world where you could take a tank through the drive-thru. And so these visits were very much meant to lift the spirits of the soldiers and to tell them how much Canada cared, and General Hilliard was a tremendously motivational speaker, and so we brought the Stanley Cup out onto a little table, sort of like this, on the airfield, put the Stanley Cup on the table so the soldiers could pose with it and get their picture taken with the hockey players and the cup. And General Hilliard, in giving these guys a great rousing speech, pulled all the men and women of the forces, there must have been 500 of them there on the airfield, brought them in close and said, "Now folks, this is the year," I think it was 2008, "that we're going to engrave all the names of the Toronto Maple Leafs on the Stanley Cup again." We couldn't find it last time, but in any event, so he made this bold prediction, and suddenly from the back of the crowd, this voice, had to be from Newfoundland by the accent, says, "General, now that you've had the Stanley Cup here in Afghanistan, the Taliban will be closer to it than the Maple Leafs."